But one farmer says, seems to me there was a tea party in Boston that was illegal too.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold.
We shall seek to establish and maintain a dollar which will not change its purchasing and debt-paying power during the succeeding generation.
As anguished shrieks rose up from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange.
Government credit and government currency are really one and the same thing. A reserve of gold and a small reserve of silver.
Why do central banks hold it?
Well, it's a form of reserves.
Why don't they hold diamonds?
Well, it's tradition, long-term tradition.
Well, some people still think it's money.
Hey, good evening. Welcome back to the Junius Malpe channel, also known as the most boring channel on YouTube, for an evening installment of some extemporaneous rambling. It's going to be a fast night. I was busy today in the garden, as we all should be in the springtime, planting some fruit trees and some other weird little woody plants for the missus. We planted a Henry Lauder's walking stick, or walking cane. Bizarre, twisted plant. Very interesting. Anyway, she wanted one of those in the garden, so that was put in. Looking at a wonderful picture here. It's one of the favorites. Nice little stack of gold there. I don't know whose stack this is, but I keep coming back to it because it's just the ultimate symbol of some preservation of wealth. And as we go through this evening on a very fast-paced journey, we're going to kind of just look at what's going on. I mean, it's crazy. The headlines keep getting crazier. The news gets crazier. And we're just going to really touch on that. Just some headlines tonight and generate the conversation on them. And I'll give it to you guys down in the comments to kind of run away with it down in the mosh pit of the YouTube comment section here, where you guys tend to punch it out and create a ruckus. Looking at the paper prices for metals. Earlier today, again, this is futures right now. This is like 5 minutes ago. Gold was up $50 today. It was doing pretty awesome. Silver dipped a little bit. Now it's back about a dime, up 0.68%. But gold still holding strong above that 1,700 mark. $1,737 an ounce for the archaic and barbarous relic that banks like to hold out of tradition. And gold's really picking up right where it left off. You can see the big dip there when big financial institutions and the funds and everyone had to dump their most liquid asset to make up for losses and margins in other areas. Well, after that sell-off, gold rallied back to where the chart says it should be, and it blew past 1,600, and now we're sitting in the 1,700 range as it chips its way towards the 1,800 mark. Let's take a look at silver, and then we're going to jump back on the gold conversation because there are some new predictions coming in on where gold's going to go. Not new to us here on the channel. Many of you have actually already stated some of the numbers we are going to see, but I think we're even a little bit more bullish than the supposed experts in financial institutions that are now making big calls for gold. All right, looking at the little brother paper price here of silver. 1544. There's the big dip that it had as well, falling gold there during the crisis of the contagion. It still has not come back and returned to those pre-crisis levels. It's trying. It really does try, doesn't it, though? You know, it dipped down there to, what was it? We saw 1160 something, 1167. But again, you're not going to see silver for 1544 anywhere. Not only is it hard to find, really, you can still get orders in, especially like Scottsdale Mint and places like that, and some rounds from some other big dealers. But the premiums are just so much higher than than we've seen in the past. You know, it's none of this buck or two over spot anymore for coin. You know, I haven't seen anything less than $18, $19 an ounce. Most things are sitting in the 20s. Eagles being around $25 an ounce. And I think we're going to see it stay that way for a while, especially with supply side, the way it is, the supply shock constriction there, all the mines shut down, the mints shut down, just a major disruption. You know, silver, I know it disappoints some people, disappoints me quite often, but that doesn't mean I hate it, doesn't mean I don't like to have it. I'm still waiting on a small little order that I had placed over a month ago. I should probably call and check on it. I don't even know where it is. Or I know they took my money, but I don't have my metal. So I need to investigate that at some point. I'll let you know how that turns out. Now we're starting to see the calls. $3,000 gold. Bank of America forecasts the metal will surge to $3,000. They're skipping right past the next goal of 2,000. I mean, gold's never hit 2,000, and they're not even calling that anymore. Now they're going, you know what? It's going to 3,000. And Bank of America forecasts the metal will surge to $3,000. There's articles on Yahoo, the case for $3,000 gold morning brief. And this is currently when it was sitting at prices like $1,695, and we were sitting in the 1,700 range, and we're seeing calls for $3,000 gold already. The window of time, you're seeing anything from 1 year, 18 months, 24 months. Everyone has a different time frame on it. I think it's going to happen fairly quickly. I personally could see, and this is my opinion, again, I'm not an expert on this stuff, but just knowing behavior and how it works and how I've seen gold perform in the past when people start to really experience it, and there's kind of a frenzy or a fervor built up around it, especially when you couple that with the amount of Fed activity taking place, the trillions of dollars of fake money, the monopoly money, the helicopter money, all these stimulus after stimulus, quantitative easing. There's just so much fake money pouring out of the Fed now. I hate even calling it money. Fake credit, fake certificates, coupons, whatever you want to call them. Let's not call it money anymore. But there's so much fake currency. Yeah, we'll call it that. Just raining down. It can only drive these prices further. And again, it's one of the reasons why I think this whole thing we saw with oil is just, it's incredible. I mean, really, 42 gallons a barrel of oil. I mean, come on now. You guys know what it takes to get that stuff and make it. It's not free. It's not worthless. There's labor and effort that goes into such a commodity, and much more so even than with gold. We talked about that recently. But we're seeing $3,000 calls now, and this is why I want to point to this for a second. If they're saying that and reporting it, to me, that makes the case for higher valuations of that. Because how often has it been? These are the same institutions that were making a call for gold at 1,500 or 1,600 back in December for this year. Oh yeah, we see it at 1,500 or 1,600 conservatively, and now they're adjusting it to 3,000. These guys essentially doubled the amount they see gold being at. And that, to me, is a huge flag. What do we think? 4,000? 5,000? I mean, I know the opinion you guys have out there. A lot of you look at the debt clock and go, well, hey, you look at the amount of dollars in circulation, you look at the debt clock, gold should be $19,000 now. It's $10,000. Years ago, I did a video that, I think it was titled "The Case for $10,000 Gold" or something about $10,000 gold being in the near future. And again, that just means the dollar's trash at that point. I mean, come on now. It doesn't. Gold's the constant. I know that. It doesn't. Gold's not changing in value. It's the purchasing strength and the power of the coupons, the faith that people have in these fake little certificates and Federal Reserve notes, these little clusters of cotton and silk with the images of dead men stamped onto them in green ink. Those deteriorate in their ability to acquire the yellow metal. Gold doesn't change in value at all. As a matter of fact, what's funny to think about when you hold gold and look at it, I'm sorry I'm going off on this tangent, but it's one of the attributes of gold, is it's always existed. It's an element. It's been there since the beginning of time. And when you dig one up, when you unlock a nugget, when you find a piece of placer gold in the stream or something in a clay or gravel strewn mountainside in some mountain valley someplace, when you dig that up and hold it in your hand and actually find it, you're most likely, and you are, the very first human being to ever come in contact with that piece of gold ever. Because all gold that's ever found is often locked away or hoarded away or consumed, turned into something. It's consolidated with other gold and melted, refined and assayed and such. So when you find gold, you're the first person to ever contact it. And, that's part of that attribute of gold. It's constant. It's been there. The point of this is it's been there since the beginning of time. It's not changing in value. We are, but a breath Our lives are what? A vapor. We're not here for very long. And humans, our little footprint here on this continent, well, we'll say Western civilization. I know that for 10,000 years there's been indigenous peoples here, and they valued gold, had gold as well, transacted it a little bit. They weren't as much when it came to using precious metals as the Europeans were when they got here. But the modern idea of precious metals and banking and such has really only existed on the continent that I reside for the last 200 or so years. We destroyed that, ruined it, and now it's falling apart and burning down around us. But the gold's always been there, and it will always be there. It's that the variable is, and the thing that's fluctuating, is these little coupons that we put our faith into, the little pieces of paper. That it's going away, my friends. I mean, the U.S. dollar is in death throes, and we always talk about that. We always try to push that point. And you'll hear people say, "Oh, it's getting stronger right now. It's strong now." Yeah, well, that's because everyone's selling everything. It's the only place they can go. They're forced to go there. Every single person who's selling anything that is in Wall Street has to land on dollars. So there's so many of them right now, and well, they're hoarding them. People are finding themselves in cash positions. So the dollar's getting some strength temporarily right now. Eventually, that will wane. That will erode. And that pent-up energy, those pent-up dollars are going to try to find their way out. It's like trying to hold on to water in your hands. It's going to drip out. Those dollars are going to want to find, it's like gravity. They're going to seek to leave where they're being held and go into other places that will eventually hold them more value. Tools, capital, anything but dollars. I mean, the wealthy, the elite, the institutions that are holding dollars right now, they're not dumb. Many of them know that holding dollars is very, very costly, and that the purchasing strength and the power of those dollars is dwindling by the day, and they're going to want to get rid of them as quickly as possible. So now it's a race. It's a race for the exits. It's a race for the fire exit. And whoever can get there first gets bigger bang for their buck. So those institutions are going to run. Now, where are they going to run to? What are they running towards? What are they going to do when they're going to offload their dollars? Some idiots are going to jump back into certain markets. Other idiots are going to find themselves in real estate. Well, we're going to touch on that in a minute. You're going to have a lot of people running in different directions. There's going to be some really smart, brilliant generational wealth preservers. They're going to land in metals and already have, and have been for some time. We touched on this in the fall and throughout this crisis. Many of the wealthy elite that know are vaulting gold. They've been vaulting it for months, for years. Central banks have been doing it. But again, I'm talking about the individual. The 1%ers, even the 1/10 of 1%ers. Those guys are doing what they do. And they're preserving their wealth in a time of dire crisis. What surprised me today was this article that came out that generated a lot of the conversation about $3,000 gold coming from Bank of America. And they titled it, "The Fed Can't Print Gold." It made its rounds on Barron's, on Reuters. A lot of places covered the article. Kitco covered it, this new position and this new forecast. And again, like I said, this is, 50% higher than original projections that these institutions had for gold when the year began. And, well, what changed? Why now? And please don't say the microbiological event, because I don't buy it. No correlation whatsoever, as a matter of fact. The economy, yes, systematically, demolition, controlled demolition, they broke it down. Why? Well, there's got to be a motivation. Motivation is consolidation, centralization, nationalization. Wealth is finding its way into certain places, and gold now is making some headlines. And I'm sure there's some confused individuals in high ivory towers that are caught off guard by this, but not surprising, right? The Fed can't print gold. It's like they just came up with this little gem of knowledge. Like they just realized it. Wait a minute, they can't create gold. Oh, obviously, alchemy is impossible. They've been trying alchemy since the Middle Ages. It doesn't work. You cannot print gold. It doesn't happen. They're going to try to print their way out of this, but you can't print the ultimate extinguisher of debt. They're just creating more debt. Well, these guys had a team of monkeys working overtime, And what did they came up with is, well, gold's going to go up in value because they're printing too much money. That's it. I mean, it's that simple, ladies and gentlemen. It's as if the Bank of America was sitting here tuned into the Junius Maltby channel at some point and had kind of a moment that dawned upon them. They were gold pilled. I guess that's what happened. You know, that's a term we coined recently here on the channel, being gold pilled. I'd like to think that we came up with it. Maybe not. Maybe someone else said it before that. But that's what I'm going to start calling it. When you finally wake up and you finally realize, my God, the system's broken. It's not going to work. They can't print their way out of this. Gold's going to the moon. Yeah, you've been gold pilled. It's that easy. And it's actually that obvious and that simple. This whole new modern monetary theory, it's not going to work. It's been tried before. You can label it and call it something new. You can make a new acronym out of it or whatever you want. It's simply not going to work. It's going to drive the price of gold up, the ability and the power of the currencies that we transact with daily down, and goods and services will go up. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles. And there's a lot more down the pipe for us all. We have a lot more to face as things start to return to what some would term normal or post-pandemic world order, whatever you want to call it. When the curfews lift, the lockdowns lift, and people are released from their prisons because everyone's on house arrest now, right? When they start spending and going out there and driving their cars and shopping and going about their day-to-day business, things are going to change as far as, whoa, there's a lot more money in the system now. But on top of that, they're going to have to create more. They're not going to stop now. They have just begun. They have only just begun because now the big problems are going to start. Well, what are the big problems? We're starting to see certain ones. Let's take a look. Oil funds, oil ETFs, they're being destroyed. They're languishing. The plummeting share price and upcoming reverse split show that USO has outlived its usefulness. USO is one of the big oil funds. Some people believe it's not even going to exist here pretty soon. It's dying. It like the dollar is going through death throes. There is a lot of problems, as you know, and as you've seen, and as we've discussed here, with this whole debacle surrounding the oversupply of oil, the inability to store it, oil prices and futures reaching negative territory. Big problems there, big problems. Again, that's just one. Now, that's just one little sector, the energy sector, the oil sector of the economy that's having trouble, that's going to need help. And they're going to turn to the Fed, most likely for bailouts, for payroll protection, you name it. Well, what does that mean? Fed's going to probably get involved, nationalize them, own them, take ownership. I don't know. I don't know how that'll work. I don't know how the Fed shows up with the briefcase and says, okay, now we own X percentage of this or that. I'm not an expert on that. I don't know how it works. All I know is huge problem. It's going to cost something, and there's going to be a major effect in employment. There's going to be unemployment and major losses due to the exposure of this. A lot of hedge funds, a lot of banks, a lot of pensions, a lot of people have a lot of money. Well, again, we use the wrong word, not money. Fiat currency, coupons, little pieces of paper and notes or digits on a screen. They've got a lot of that currency tied to this, exposed to this. They're going to suffer losses. They're going to have to make up for those losses in other areas and sell other assets and try to find a position to where they have some financial stability. Because guess what? Debt, costs, expenses, all of those things still exist. They don't go away just because your commodity all of a sudden was destroyed or your business was destroyed or your investments were destroyed. Everything's still there. Big problem. Now, this is just one sector. Look at the healthcare industry. A lot of hospitals had no patients for the last month and a half, 2 months. Their margins are very thin. They've hemorrhaged money. They couldn't perform operations. They're laying off workforce. They're cutting pay. Boom. Healthcare industry, healthcare sector, major problems. So now we have energy, now we have healthcare. Both dramatically affected, both having significant problems. Well, again, a lot of banks, a lot of hedge funds, a lot of pensions have exposure to those investments. They're going to suffer losses. Back in 2007 and 8, it all started with what? The mortgage-backed securities, we're told, right? Well, guess what? Now we're seeing problems there, and that's going to continue. This is why this is such a much bigger deal than what we saw back then. A couple videos ago, we touched on the 22 million who have become unemployed in the United States because of this event. I don't know what it is globally and in other countries. It's only growing. I know it's only growing here. So since that 22 million was reported, what are we sitting at now? 25, 26, 27, 28 million? I don't know. We also talked about last week something like 30% of Americans had not paid their rent that month. They just stopped paying rent. I don't know how many stopped paying their mortgages, but I'm sure there's a significant number of them. I've seen headlines discussing that, where people are unable to and not paying their mortgages. Well, banks and landlords of the real estate market is going to feel that dramatically. The number of people applying for loans to purchase new homes has dropped significantly. I saw a stat this morning. Now, you'll see one that's just scrolling by now. Something like half or 80% reduction in real estate listings in New York. On the national level, something like 47% reduction in new home listings. So people are not even putting houses up for sale. We're seeing, so houses not going up for sale. People aren't even applying for mortgages. That's another one, a big stat there. I don't know the number. Again, I can't quote it exactly, but I know there's significant drop off in the number of people even interested in purchasing homes. Some might say, oh, they can't because of quarantine. They can't go out there and get them. Sorry, that drop that we're seeing, you can still apply. I talked to one of my mortgage brokers guys the other day just about refi rates and stuff like that, just inquiring how he's doing. He's actually a friend of mine that I've gotten to know over the years, and talking about real estate, what's going on in that arena. No, there's just not a lot of interest. People aren't doing it. People are scared, so they don't want to buy a house. A lot of people are actually waiting because they know there is a plunge coming. It's kind of that herd mentality. They know things are bad, and they know real estate's going to get hit, and they're just waiting for the price to drop, which they're smart to do so. It likely is going to drop significantly. But believe it or not, I have a heart, and these are first world problems. Gold, oil, real estate prices, your stock portfolio. We're seeing headlines now with the UN warning of a global famines that could be of biblical proportions, and hunger in parts of the world that are very vulnerable. And maybe not just isolated to those areas. I mean, this could reach some first world nations, I'd imagine. There's a lot of impoverished people, and a lot of people have been hurting and suffering due to this pandemic, due to this orchestrated and architecturally designed disaster by the hands of insane madmen at the helm. So we're going to see a human cost, a human toll. And I can assure you that the human toll, the human cost and lives lost, the destruction wrought upon this planet, upon every nation and neighborhood, will far outweigh any of the projections of damages and lives lost that were going to be related to the microbiological theater event that we all just went through and experienced. Far. You can look at the numbers now. You can look at the study that came out of LA. You can look at the herd immunity in Sweden. And I can assure you and guarantee all of you that the damages that are going to be suffered and caused by this event is the blowback of the overreaction is going to be far worse than what they thought the little microbiological event was going to do. If you get my drift. I have to guard my speech. I can't say certain words because the algorithm, YouTube picks up on it. I got to say things like Justin Bieber, Miley Cyrus, the Kardashians, football, Packers versus Steelers versus Seahawks versus the Super Bowl, basketball, Michael Jordan, those kinds of things. Dancing with the Stars, The Voice. Come on, give me some other stupid words. Put a stupid comment down there like some dumbass show that some idiot booger-eating, window-licking American would like and most likely be privy to. And that way the algorithms kind of look past the video. It's very hard to hide from the algorithms. It's like being in the Matrix and you're like Neo. They find you. Mr. Smith will find you. And he comes knocking on my door. Junius, we need to have a conversation. It's apparent that you have been challenging the Matrix. Well, sorry, man. I'm going to keep doing it. So unless you kill me, it's going to keep happening. All right? That's just the way it is. I'm going to call you out. I'm going to call you on your bluff and your shit. I'm over it. You know, it's upsetting. It really, truly is. I'm a little animated. I'm a little upset. It's late at night. I'm actually tired. I should go to bed soon. But I had to get a video out for you guys. And if this doesn't piss you off, if this doesn't upset you and anger you, to see what these people in power can do with the stroke of a pen, with a microphone, with an edict, the things they can just will into existence, the control and domination over an entire planet to where they can just shut the globe down at the cost of everybody and everything, while they sit there like Nancy Pelosi with a freezer full of organic and, shade-grown heirloom fair trade ice cream, while we're seeing people in soup kitchen lines. If that doesn't piss you off, I don't know what will. And I'll tell you right now, if I see one more person that gets upset about people wanting to go back to work, I want to slap those people across the face. You have every right to go back to work and demand it. AOC telling people to protest and stay home. AOC, your supporters don't work anyway. You're a fucking Democrat. Are you kidding me? 90% of the people that work for you are unemployed or live on the government dole. Are you kidding me? You don't have supporters that work. You don't produce anything. None of your supporters produce anything. The people that want to go back to work are the backbone of this country and this economy. Let them go back to work. And if you try to stop them, well, I'll tell you what. That's when the if they want to start something, do it. Tell them they can't go back to work. And you know what? If you're in any capacity out there preventing or stopping or halting people from going back to work, or if you're in a position of power and authority, and you're listening to people above you to prevent, stop, and halt people from going back to work, well, you know what? You're despicable. And I want you to just log off the channel, unsubscribe, and just be gone. I don't want to hear from you if you're one of those people. If you enforce that type of bullshit. You guys see the video? The woman playing in a park with her kid? She gets arrested. She took her kids to a park. And I don't want to see anyone defending anything about it. If you guys have your little insight, your little viewpoint, and you want to defend the people that arrested a woman who's in a park playing with a kid on a sunny afternoon, get the hell out of here. All right? I have no time for you. I'm not going to sit here and explain it and break down liberty and freedom for you. Okay? This was a complete overreach. Every single action that took place was an overreach and a violation. And we're at a boiling point, and we're at a crossroads. And you got to make decisions when you're at that kind of juncture in history. What side are you on? Where do you fall? What you going to pick? And that's why, again, let's get back to gold. It's the ultimate defiance in their statist coupons. That's why they hate it. They hate gold because it gives you financial liberty and freedom from them. They can't encroach upon it. They can't steal it away unless they do it physically. And if you have something to protect yourself physically, it makes it more difficult for them to steal your wealth away. Because ultimately, that's what it's all about. Power, control, power over the money supply, power over you, control over you. Power and control. That's what they want. They want to control you, and they want power over you. Anyone who says differently is lying to you. And probably has a dog in the fight and gets something out of it. They're getting a paycheck for it. They're getting a paycheck or a benefit for it. Anyone who's enforcing that upon you, paycheck or a benefit. So, there are no victims, there's only volunteers. All right, my friends. Thanks for tuning in to this installment of the Junius Maltby channel. Thanks for joining me here today. If you unsubscribed because of the rant and ramblings tonight, bye. Bye, Felicia. Take care of yourself. Have fun. Go out there. Make sure you lick those boots clean and take care of yourself. For those of you who stick around and stuck it out for this full 29 minutes of this Junius Maltby channel, I appreciate it. Thanks to all of you who are Patreons and subscribe and support this channel, motivate this channel, and keep me here late at night when I'm tired, motivating me to put out some content and material to discuss. I appreciate each and every one of you. You know who you are. I'll see you down in the comments. Have a good night. Rest easy. And remember, this is much bigger than it actually seems.